everyone, Jake here, and I just want to say I'm doing a collaboration with Steph from I'll Buy the Popcorn and Jacob Martin again, and I just want to give a shout out to them. Thank you so much for doing this collab with me on this movie. Sorry it's for this movie, and I'm going to let you watch the video and then I'll give you my thoughts below. Alright.
Hey Jacob, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this video. I'm always so excited to be asked to collab in somebody else's channel. We are here to talk about Silent Night, Deadly Night. I hope I said that right. So it is a horror movie of the 80s, so just a few years before I was born. It is a movie I had absolutely never ever heard of before. Now going into this movie, I was a little bit scared, not because it is a horror movie. Fun little fact in case you don't know me, I don't do horror movies. I mean, I could do old horror movies like 80s back, well maybe early 2000s. I think early 2000s might be my cutoff point because I don't like scary stuff like demonic and stuff like that. Like I'm not jiggy with that. So this falls within what I'm able to handle. But I was afraid because you kept apologizing about how bad this movie could possibly be. So I went in with very low expectations. Surprisingly enough, I didn't hate the movie. I really did. I mean, I didn't love it. I don't think it's a movie I would rewatch again. We are following Billy. Of course, it's a Billy. Wait, it is Billy, right? I feel like Billy's right. Yes, it is Billy. I don't blame him to be afraid, like deathly afraid of Santa Claus. So as the movie was kind of going on, I was thinking one of two things. One was either he was going to figure out who this man was who killed Santa Claus, or his bad luck, he was going to come upon another murderous Santa Claus coming his way, sorry. Or two, he was going to snap, have some sort of meltdown, and he was going to be the next killer Santa Claus. So B was the winner. And again, I don't blame him for what happened because the trauma, but yet, dude, Billy, man, speak up, use your words. That's what God gave you a mouth. You should just say, look, this happened to me, or I just have a fear of Santa Claus, and let that be. Like, why are you trying to put me in a Santa Claus suit? So yeah, he literally snapped when they forced him to dress up as Santa Claus and they're about to drink. It looked like by the end of the night you could be Santa Claus. Now this movie of course isn't perfect. It's one of those cheesy horror 80s movies, full on low budget B movie, but it's a solid one. I mean, like, again, I enjoyed it as I went on. One of my main issues with it is Billy is just like out there murdering random people. I mean, I understand like the rapist guy that he was working with. Okay, I get you why you killed him, you're trying to rape that girl, but then you go off and you kill their other co-workers. Like, why? I feel like it would have been better if he were more, I don't know, better, I mean, he shouldn't be killing people regardless, but would have made a little bit more sense if he would have indeed killed people that deserved it, like rapists or murderers or people who were robbing. Like, maybe within the story as a build-up, once he got older, he could have seen somebody being robbed, or he would have seen something bad happening, and he just, you know, because it's a small town, maybe he knows where these people are, and then he goes towards them to murder them, instead of just randomly showing up at somebody's house. So I guess that was really my big issue with it, was the random murder of people, which I guess for some people that might be better, like they like the randomness. And I understand the whole going back to the orphanage and trying to get Mother Superior, but did you really have to kill the cop? So ultimately I didn't absolutely hate it, so that was also great. It's always a good thing when I don't watch a shitty ass movie. Again, I don't know how memorable it's gonna be, how well I would recommend it, probably not so much. But if you are somebody who loves these type of movies, then definitely check it out. I actually saw it here on YouTube for free. If you're done with your cheesy Christmas family comedy movies, then maybe switch it up to a cheesy Christmas horror slasher movie. Yeah, I mean, again, it's not too bad. It went by really quickly. Also, I don't know how long it is, but it was done very quick. My favorite scene is probably when he's seen his co-worker trying to rape his other co-worker, and he's remembering the whole thing with his parents, because he always just knew he feared Santa Claus, but he couldn't remember because he was so little. He's actually having that vision and he's turning into killer Santa Claus. I like that scene. That was really cool because you could see that like switch being flipped, and it was like, ooh, you about to murder people. I said, okay. Those are my thoughts on Silent Night, Deadly Night. I can't wait to hear everybody's opinions, thoughts about this film, how many people have actually seen it. But yeah, that is it. My name again is Stephanie. I have a channel here on YouTube called All About the Popcorn. I do movie reviews there, mostly new releases, but the occasional retro reviews, and I do monthly wrap up a tier list, just kind of everything that I watch within the month. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, hopefully you can go in and check me out. All right, that's it for me today. Take it away, Jacob. Bye.
What's going on, Jacob and all his viewers? I am another Jacob, Jacob Martin, joining Jacob for the first time on his YouTube channel, talking about the 1984 Christmas slasher film, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Now, when Jacob asked me to do this collab video over on his channel, when he brought up this movie, I'm like, I've never heard of this movie. Now, I know there have been Christmas horror movies that have existed. Black Christmas from 1974, decent enough slasher. And then there's been movies like Gremlins, Krampus, which are great Christmas horror films. A lot more lighthearted than a movie like this, but I definitely enjoy those movies to pieces. Silent Night, Deadly Night is a very controversial film, come to find out. The movie's premise involves a boy named Billy who, as a kid, witnesses his parents get murdered by a psycho dressed up in a Santa Claus suit. And so he's facing a lot of trauma. It messes him up all the way till his adulthood, when he's asked in his job to dress up as Santa at his job at a toy store. He goes crazy from there and starts axe murdering people like crazy. And this movie was very controversial when it came out. Come to find out, there was an intense backlash surrounding Silent Night, Deadly Night. People objected to the idea of a psycho Santa Claus. In fact, a week after the movie was released in theaters, there was a huge parental backlash against the film, saying, oh, this is offensive, this is going to traumatize children, that Santa Claus is evil and stuff. Even Siskel and Ebert on their show trashed the movie to pieces.
So, let me repeat the names of the writer and director and producers of this film. Michael Hickey wrote the film, Charles E. Sellier Jr. directed it, and Ira Richard Barmack produced it. You people have nothing to be proud of, even if you made a few bucks off of all the negative publicity. Your profits truly are blood money.
I'm glad you mentioned those people's names, because quite frequently they think, gee, we'll make this exploitation film, we'll be able to buy our Mercedes and live in Bel Air, and nobody will ever know what we did. But I would like to hear them explain to their children and their grandchildren that it's only a movie. I think that would be a real interesting explanation.
The reception was so bad that the film was pulled from theaters a week after its initial release. Now, my thoughts on that controversy, for one, criticizing that a movie like this would traumatize kids. I mean, what do you expect? It's an R-rated slasher film. This is not a kid-friendly movie, so I don't get why parents were complaining about the movie as it is when the younger kids shouldn't be allowed to see the film anyway. So I'm not offended by the premise of this movie. In fact, I like the idea on paper. An evil Santa Claus, like psycho dressed in a Santa Claus suit slaughtering people. That sounds like an original and unique premise for a horror movie. And it could have been something. I like the setup of this movie, where you have a troubled kid who is traumatized by something bad that ends up becoming the person that he fears the most by the end of it. You could have done something with that. However, this movie just does not work for me at the end of the day. I think the film has some good ideas, but the film is bogged down by many things. One, the acting is, for lack of a better word, terrible. Like, none of the actors are that good in this movie. The acting is very, very dodgy throughout. Like, the child acting wasn't that good. Even the Billy character grown up isn't really that good. I guess there's one actress that's trying her best in this, and it's this nun character who is very strict and has a lot of opposing rules in this orphanage. And what's funny is the character's name is Mother Superior. That's a very not so subtle name right there. She does a good job at being over the top and even sadistic in places. And how that character fits with Billy's trauma, there's a neat little contrast, I guess, with that. But the whole movie itself does not work between the acting, the way the movie told its story too, how it focuses very heavily on the kid's trauma and how that makes him a psychopath at the end. I just felt like it was done in very poor taste. I get that the film was trying to have a message where if you're dealing with a lot of trauma, it's better to get help instead of trying to hide it. Because if the trauma is so bad and you can't control it, it might mess you up. I definitely get what they're trying to say, but the way they execute it just left a sour taste in my mouth. And then when Billy ends up being the psycho, I don't really get the guy's motivations, because throughout his life, he believes that Santa Claus slaughters kids and people in general when they're naughty. And so this guy, Billy, his motivations make no sense, because at first you think, okay, he's going to go after people that wronged him and uses his trauma to justify the actions that he's doing. And so there's a girl that he likes at his job, and the girl is being sexually assaulted by another guy on the job. And so you're meant to believe, oh, he's going to go after that guy just to protect her, right? Well, she is horrified by the actions, and then he just kills her for some reason. And I just thought some of the deaths were a little too mean-spirited. It just did not make sense why the guy would do all those things. Like, I get why he would kill some characters in this movie, but then he just starts killing off random characters for no reason. In fact, the only characters that I think were justifiable, I'd say, was the guy that he witnessed assault the girl that he likes, and then the Mother Superior character who also abused him as a kid as well. Those are like the only characters I can definitely see why he would go after. Not that I'm endorsing the character's actions or anything, I'm just looking at the movie on a lens. The movie falls flat on its face, and even the slasher sequences are done in the most laughably bad ways possible, to where I don't feel anything watching the movie. Now, if you're hanging out with your best friends and are watching this at a party somewhere, I can see you enjoying this movie on a so bad it's good level, because some of the deaths in this movie are pretty bad. Especially the execution is whenever this psycho Santa Claus shows up, he ends up hollering, "Punish!" as he kills these characters off. And some of the editing isn't good. The gore isn't really that good. There's one character who gets decapitated, and the head is obviously fake, and it took me out of the scene so bad. So this is a movie that I personally did not like it. Now, is it the worst movie I've ever seen in my life? No, I don't think it's full on 2 thumbs down, even though I don't think it's a good movie by any stretch of the word. And I think it's a pretty bad movie all around. I still say it's a thumbs down movie for sure. And my final rating and grade will reflect upon that. But my main issue with Silent Night, Deadly Night is it has a good concept, but it's done in poor taste. Like, you can make a movie about a psycho in a Santa suit, but don't make a cheesy slasher with an unpleasant mean streak that doesn't feel like it justifies itself at the end of the day, or botch your mental illness story, because I feel like the mental illness story and the way they tackled that left a pretty sour taste in my mouth, honestly. So, Silent Night, Deadly Night, I personally don't recommend this movie, but if you just want a cheap slasher movie with bad effects, hokey acting, and a ridiculous premise, you might enjoy this on a so bad it's good level. Slashers aren't really my thing unless there's substance to it. Like, I love movies like Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street. Those are like the top tier slasher movies, and I guess Psycho, because that was technically the Alfred Hitchcock movie. But Silent Night, Deadly Night is definitely one of the worst slashers I've seen. It's not the worst Christmas film I've seen, but it's definitely not a good movie. And I feel like this film was overall poorly made, poorly acted, poorly put together, and pretty distasteful by the end of the day. So I'm not a fan of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and I'll be giving the film a 1 out of 5 stars. And on my 100-point scale, it's getting an 18 out of 100. Thank you, Jacob, for having me on your channel. I think this is the first time that I'm on your channel, so if you're not familiar with my channel, I also have a channel where I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, and other fun stuff along the way. I actually started a second channel recently as well, if you want to subscribe to that one. It's called Storytime with Jacob, which primarily focuses on read-alongs and book reviews. It focuses more on literature on that channel. But on my main channel is where I do all the big movie reviews and stuff. Jacob Collins has been on my channel a couple times. We've talked about movies like Fright Night and Howard the Duck. And I hope we can do more collabs on the future, either on my channel or on his channel. Jacob, I won't hog too much of your time. I'm curious your thoughts on this movie, whether you do legit enjoy this film or you think it's just as bad as I made it out to be. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this movie. So, Jacob, back to you.
Hey, thanks so much again to Steph from All by the Popcorn and Jacob Martin. Their link to their channels are in the description below. Thank you once again for the review, and now on to my review. Silent Night, Deadly Night is directed by Charles E. Seller Jr. and is written by Michael Hickey from a story by Paul Cammey. And of course, the movie stars, it really just stars a bunch of unknown people like Lillian Chauvin, Gilmer McCormick, Tawny Narrow, Robert Brian Wilson. And the movie's basically about a boy and his brother, two little boys. They basically, their parents get killed by a robber dressed like Santa, and then of course they go to stay in an orphanage where the nun poorly treats them, and then they kind of grow up psychotically messed up, and then when they wake up, you know, years later they're trying to get jobs, and one of the brothers who works at a toy store, and then he has to wear a Santa Claus outfit during Christmas time, and he snaps back, and then he sees someone getting sexually assaulted, and then he snaps back coming into a homicidal maniac, and he goes around killing people, even the people that aren't even bad people. He just goes around murdering because it's a slasher. And, side note, when I went to review this movie, you know, like I wanted to do the second one because I like the second one. The second one's actually a good time. It's like bad, but it's bad to watch but enjoy. While the first one, I was like, I never liked the first one because it's really bad. It's just purely bad. It's not enjoyable at all. And so I was telling Jacob, I was like, look, you know, we should review Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. It's so good. I mean, it's not good by as in like call it, but it's fun to watch. And he was like, well, if we're going to do it, why don't we just review the first one first? That way if we do, we could do a series of it, you know, like we could do first one, the second one, then we'll do like if we, because there's a bunch of them we found out, and so it's like we could do a bunch of them down the line, like every year, or we could do it all in 1 year. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds good. So then after he watched it, he goes, this movie sucks. Like, this movie, really, you saw his review. Like, that's exactly what he told me. He's like, I hated this movie. It's like, not even rewatchable. You know, and so I was like, I told you the second one's better. And so, I'm not going to tell you what he thought about the second one. No, that's going to be for another video, but he did watch the second one as well. And I told him, okay, I told him, like, you know, dude, I told you the first one is bad, you know, but he's like, you know, and which, you know, and then Steph, of course, saw it. She's like, it wasn't that bad. Like, I thought, like, both of you are complaining, like, it's terrible. Like, it was okay. I mean, I wouldn't watch it again, but, I mean, it's not, like, horrible. And so I was like, well, of course, I mean, it's not, like, great, but it's not, like, dumpster fire. Like, it's not like The Room, but it's not necessarily like Black Christmas, which is a decent slasher film than Christmas Time. You know, and the movie also got a lot of controversy when it came out. Because a lot of people were saying, oh, a figure dressed like Santa that goes around murdering people is very offensive to a lot of people. In which it got like a lot of controversy. And so much so to where they had to pull it out of theaters after a week of being in theaters. And, like, you know, which Jacob elaborated on this earlier. It's true. And the weird thing was, it's not like something really, because it's Christmas and because at that time, like, you could not make something without it being censored. Parallels to today, kind of. But, yeah, like, It was like that. And also, one thing that, also is, there's a movie that came out just like it, like that. I think that same year. I could be a year before, but it came out around that same time, called Christmas Evil, which was the exact, almost same premise about a Santa Claus that goes around murdering people. And I'm like, really? They're upset about this movie, but not this movie? I mean, what's the deal? And also, the nuns in this movie are more evil, are kind of like, are more protagonistic in this movie, or antagonistic in this movie than, people should be more offended. Like, like Catholics should be more offended about this movie, saying like how it portrays nuns, than it is, portraying people dressed like Santa Claus. I mean, really, that's my argument. Like, really, I mean, I'm not Catholic, but I'm just saying, if I was Catholic, I'd be upset, about this movie instead. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, if that was the situation, I'm saying, if you're gonna pick a fight, don't pick a fight with, oh, it's because he's dressed like Santa Claus and it's Christmas time. That's the wrong argument you're picking. But but eventually the movie did get re-released, and people stopped complaining after a while, mainly because it was after Christmas. And I just think, really, the movie, it's not good. I mean, I'm not saying you should ever censor a movie, because even if it's bad, you shouldn't censor it. I mean, the movie, I mean, I watched it, like, it's not that, like, serious. Although there is a scene I thought was kind of out there, especially, like, it's the scene where me and Jacob both had an issue, like, okay, a woman's getting sexually assaulted, and then you kill her and, the guy. I mean, I understand it's a slasher, like, which is, like, it's a slasher movie. Like, we're both like, it is, like, unnecessary. I thought Jacob elaborated in this review, like, that's kind of unnecessary. He just has to kill her. That's mean. It's mean-spirited. And then I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's like, well, I mean, you can't really have him be, like, a hero, because he's a hero, if he has to kill both of them. I mean, you can't have them root for the villain. And then Jacob responds back, like, well, that's why it's called a slasher. That's why it's called a slasher. You can't have them root for the villain. I mean, if you watch, like, there's certain movies where they had to change certain aspects of certain movies. Not this movie, Virginia, but it's another popular horror franchise where they remade the movie. A certain rock star. I'm going to tell you, there is a certain movie that was remade by a certain rock star that stars a popular horror movie icon. That movie was remade, and I watched it last year around Halloween time, and it's almost like you're rooting for that villain. And I could tell you, if you would have saw the alternate ending to that movie, that Rob Zombie's, all right, yeah, it's Rob Zombie's Halloween, okay? It's Rob Zombie's Halloween. I mean, but if you saw the ending to Rob Zombie's Halloween, I was trying to elaborate because I wanted you to figure it out on your own. But yeah, that's what the movie is, Rob Zombie's Halloween. If you watch the alternate ending that Rob Zombie had shot himself, that the studio, the Weinsteins, made him cut it and replaced it with the other ending, which I think the other ending, this ending works, but the other ending also worked. You kind of felt like Michael Myers was Frankenstein. He was the victim. You almost felt like that. Like, and you kind of rooted for him because almost everyone he killed in the movie were evil people. And Michael Myers was almost like, he was almost like that's the Reaper that's out there to kill evil. Like, it's almost like he became a vigilante. And you can't have a movie horror villain go around killing only evil people because he's not a villain anymore. That's not what we're supposed to watch. We're supposed to watch a movie, which I like when it's up for interpretation. I love when you watch a horror film and you're not necessarily watching it through the villain's eyes. You're watching it through the hero's eyes or anti-hero. And I think that's kind of what some people got upset. Like when Don't Breathe came out, Don't Breathe 2 or whatever. People get upset when you're watching it and you're like, oh, hey, why is it that, why do they make him the anti-hero? He's a villain. He did horrible things in the last movie. I'm like, it's up for interpretation, everyone. It's not like, you can't necessarily, which I understand. People will get upset like, oh, Candyman. People got upset because like, oh, Candyman was like a horror movie villain. They're making him an anti-hero. He can't be an anti-hero. He is a villain. And I'm like, it's up for interpretation. If you watch Freddy versus Jason, Jason's the anti-hero in that movie, even though he's out there murdering people. If you watch Aliens versus Predators, Predator is the anti-hero in that movie, okay? Everything is always up for interpretation. It's never meant. Like, I'm not saying this movie, I'm saying this kind of relates to this movie because, you necessarily don't have to have, him be, like, the killer, okay? You don't have to necessarily, you can make him be an anti-hero because they would tell a much better story and cohesive story. But I understand executives are like, We can't have a movie where a guy goes around in a Santa costume murdering all people and be the good guy because it sends the wrong message. You know, you have to have him be like Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers. You know, you have to have him murder everyone, you know, equally. And I'm just like, I mean, it's up for interpretation. I did think if you would have tweaked something, this movie could have been a much more enjoyable movie. But instead, I just feel like it's something that's boring. And if you watch the second one, the first 40, don't ever have to watch this movie. Because if you really want to watch a better version of this movie, watch Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. And also, the first 40 minutes of this movie, just of Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, recap the first movie. So if you don't want to watch this movie, and you just want to watch the second one, just watch the second one. Because the first 40 minutes recap the first movie to where you don't have to watch the first movie. That's what's so good about Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. It recaps the first movie without you having to watch it, and you get a much better experience 40 minutes afterwards. So, but yeah, I'm not going to grade this movie because this movie's bad. It has bad acting, although there is some funny moments, especially when there's a guy going sledding. And, you know, the whole movie, the ending I thought was interesting. I'm like, I was not expecting the ending. The ending kind of got me with the nun and Billy. You know, Ricky. Was it Ricky or Billy? I think Billy. It was Billy. Okay, I'm sorry if it was Ricky. But yeah, the ending got me. I thought it was interesting. I do enjoy these movies. You know, like they're cheesy, but they're fun to watch around Christmas time. And I'm sorry that my review got so late. The holidays got me hectic and everything. But thank you so much. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Jacob. I can't wait to collab on a new project. I got one more collaboration with Jacob on Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. And we're going to drop that soon. But if you can, just give this video a thumbs up. Help the YouTube algorithm.
You've made it through Halloween. Now try and survive Christmas. Silent Night, Deadly Night.